Hello, welcome to the 2024 Clerk Election Training for Cass County, Minnesota elections. Okay, the purpose of the municipal clerk training is to meet the statutory requirements for both the county elections administration as well as the clerk's mandatory election certification. Our review today will cover the clerk training requirements, training forms and guides, desired communication, candidate filing and eligibility and campaigns, properly filled out affidavits of candidacy, also known as the AOCs, and ballot proofing and required notices and security practices. Part 2 of the training will cover mail ballot and polling places, election judge recruitment, absentee and mail ballot voting or ABMB voting, ballot boxes, election equipment, election day, post-election duties, oath of office, quick Q&A, new laws and rules, and important election dates. Okay, so the state law requires clerks to complete 4 hours of election training every 2 years. Mail ballot precinct clerks are not excluded because you still have election duties related to elections as the clerk. So just to clarify, the clerk's training is not the same as basic election judge training. School clerks or their designees who serve as the local election administrators must be trained and certified before they may administer elections at the same standards as municipal clerk. So school district clerks are not exempt from this requirement because people still, still have folks filing for office. There's still election duties that are required. If you're a first-time clerk, the initial certification requires 5 hours of training before administering election, and then your certificate is issued upon completion. The exception is if you are a municipal clerk who has taken office less than 6 months before an election, may administer that election after completing 2 hours of emergency training given by the home county auditor or secretary of state. Additional hours of training can be obtained through basic election judge training, head judge training, healthcare facility training, or optional training found through other resources. The goal is to complete clerk's training by July in even years. Clerks that will have the in-person training or choosing to do the in-person training will have packets available for them. Online, we will have copies of everything that was in the packet, or you can reach out to our office and I can mail you copies of whatever you need. If you need X amount of affidavits of candidacy, I have lots of campaign manuals. I can mail those to you as well. So if you need me to mail packets and the number of affidavits or campaign related information, just let me know, let our office know so I can get that together and get that off to you right away. Corresponding back and forth with 76 jurisdictions, 71 precincts, 5 home county school districts, and sending affidavits of candidacy, required notices, and other election-related business, we feel the most efficient way to communicate effectively is email. If you're not able to make this way a primary form of contact through email, please let Autumn or myself know, and we will work with you to figure out a different avenue of communication. As always, you are welcome to call us anytime. Legislature passed sweeping election laws in 2023, and as I'm drafting this slide, there are still possible election law revisions still occurring. So here are some of the new laws that will directly affect you. The annual resolution. This one is one that goes back and forth over the years depending on what the legislature gets passed. Currently, you do not have to approve an annual resolution designating your polling place unless you are switching to mail ballot or vice versa. Town, school, and city write-ins, so that means a township, city, school district, or other election district may also adopt a resolution requiring that write-in candidates will only have their individual votes tallied if the total number of write-in votes for the contest is greater than or equal to the fewest number of votes cast for a non-write-in candidate. So I saw that the LMC version of their, I'm sorry, the LMC template for their resolution provides something that kind of sums it up, and the sentiments kind of quite appropriately. And it says, whereas election officials spend considerable time and resources to count and individually record write-in votes cast, many of which are frivolous. And in order to save the city time and resources, it is of the best interest of the city of the, city of blank to enforce restrictions on the counting of the write-in votes consistent of the provisions of the statute. So essentially, and I know we have it a little bit easier up here in Cass County where we do a lot of the counting of the write-in votes. There are no write-ins allowed in the primary election, so you won't see any write-ins. But if it was so the general election, normally if you were a polling place, we would have you keep track of every single write-in and write that separately. But because of certain software that we have, we're able to collect those responses and do it a little bit differently. But I can see where it is time consuming even with that. So that's going to be up to the city or the township if you choose to adopt such a resolution. Again, that if you have questions on that, you can certainly give me a call and we can go over that. Compatible office specifically to town board and school board. An additional exception was added to the general rule against running for more than one office. Namely, it is now permissible to run for positions on both school board and a town board of supervisors, provided the town board does not exercise the powers of a statutory city. AOCs, affidavits. As I mentioned in the earlier slide, the affidavits of candidacy have a new form. So you must provide a non-governmental email address or at least attest that you do not have an email at all. So emails are required, must be non-governmental, or you need to attest that you do not have an email address. What makes a candidate eligible to file? So all candidates must be eligible to vote in Minnesota. They must have not filed for another office at the upcoming primary or general election. Must be at least 21 years of age or more upon assuming office. Must have maintained residence in their district for at least 30 days before the general election. So candidates for federal office are exempt from this. There is a caveat for the city offices and school board members. Mayor or city council members elected or appointed after August 1st, 2010 may not be a full-time permanent employee of the city. School board member must have not been convicted of an offense for which they are required to register as a predatory offender. An additional exception was added to the general rule against running for more than one office. As I stated in an earlier slide, you can now run for school board and town board at the same time, provided the town board does not exercise the powers of a statutory city. So when the candidates are filing for office, ask if they have already filed for another office or plan to file for another office. Minnesota statute provides that one person cannot hold certain combinations of offices at the same time, with only a few exceptions. So information about other qualifications for county, municipal, school district, or special district offices is available on the Minnesota Secretary of State's website and under Become a Candidate webpage. Candidates for townships must file with their town clerk, and city offices must file with their city clerks, and school boards must file with their school district clerk. Candidates for special districts, such as hospital or park districts, should contact the district's office for information on the filing process. But the clerk of the city or township is also responsible for accepting any hospital district filings and should be forwarded to the hospital district as soon as possible. Townships in Cass County that reside within the hospital District are Becker, Byron, Meadowbrook, Moose Lake, Motley, at least the Cass County portion only of the city of Motley, and Poplar Township. As the clerk, you will provide a campaign packet to candidates that file for office with you. I've included those forms in your packet. There are new affidavits of candidacy. Please throw away the old carbon copy ones if you still have those left. We're not able to accept the old ones, and I will be sending them back to you if you send me an old carbon copy one. They have to be the new versions. Please make sure that you are accepting a properly executed affidavit. Our elections department works very hard to keep track of all the AOCs coming through by fax, mail, or dropping off email. It can get a bit confusing, especially when some of the AOCs don't even have the name of the township or city written on it. Just really make sure before you're sending it to us. The preferred delivery method is email, or take a picture of it and send it by email or text. Please send them to me as soon as you receive one. It takes several of our staff members in our audit or treasurer's office to enter these into the statewide election reporting system. Don't wait till the end of the candidate filing period to turn them all in. We have over 450 offices across 76 jurisdictions. It can be an extremely cumbersome process, so make sure to forward those candidate filings to us as you get them. Please don't wait until you receive them all and then send them. The date filing closes is the same date as the primary election, so it's unlikely that I will be as available for questions as I normally am if that were any other day. And for the clerks that run polling places, please try to account for this. So meaning you're still accepting filings until 5 p.m. So you've got to make sure that you're around. A candidate may withdraw from participation in the election by filing an affidavit of withdrawal with the filing officer. The affidavit shall request that the official withdraw the candidate's name from the ballot. The candidate's filing fee is non-refundable. A candidate may stop campaigning, but their name will remain on the ballot if they fail to submit an affidavit of withdrawal during the withdrawal period. Candidates have until 5 p.m. 2 days after the close of filing to withdraw. It is very important that you double check the affidavit of candidacy and make sure that it's filled out correctly and legibly. Some that we receive, the name of the candidate can't be deciphered, or it didn't state the name of the municipality or even the seat that they're running for. Some have no address or phone number or nothing identifiable. We were able to eventually track it down, but with much wasted staff time and when there's none to spare. So please just make sure that you are making sure those affidavits are filled out correctly. Okay, so at the top right of the affidavit of candidacy, you are going to see a filing number. So right here. Please make sure to have that filing number in sequential order. You can choose just to do sequential as 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can write 01-2024 or 02-2024, and so on and so forth. The filing fee for your township or your city or cities of the fourth class or school districts is $2. So most cases they'll hand you cash or check, but it is $2. Double check that the name of the candidate is printed clearly. If it is not, please print it above the name. So that's okay. So and this, you need to make sure that the candidate very clearly tells you if they have uppercase letters or lowercase letters in the name of names like McMasters or McDonald's. Just verify that, because it does need to be upper and lowercase letters on the ballot. It has to be in what we call proper form. So again, just make sure that you're looking at this candidate name, because whatever they put is whatever it's going to be on the ballot. Explain to the candidate that the way they write their name on the ballot is how it'll appear. Because candidate names will now appear on ballots with upper and lowercase lettering, it's important to make sure that the candidate has listed exactly how the name should be spelled and capitalized. It is suggested when necessary to make a copy of the affidavit and go over the spelling and capitalization of the name with the candidate, underlining the exact letters that should be capitalized before the candidate leaves. The name on the ballot cannot give the candidate advantage. So, for example, you can't have an MD for doctor, PhD, or other qualifications. Offices cannot write incumbent after the name. That only applies to the judicial offices. The office must state the municipality name first and then the full name of the office they are running for. So if a candidate turns us in without the name of the municipality, write that in the upper right-hand corner of the affidavit. They must also identify the seat. If for a township supervisor, they can't just write township supervisor and leave it at that. The district number applies to school district candidates. A commissioner may also denote the district number also. Commissioners will be filing at our office and not with the clerk. Partisan office does not apply to supervisors, council members, and school board members as they are a nonpartisan office. And judicial office, this applies only to judges. This portion will be left blank. It also must contain a telephone number where the candidate can be reached. So make sure it's got a telephone number on there. And then candidates must have, and this is the new one, candidates must provide a non-governmental issued email address on the affidavit. So they can't use, if they're currently a supervisor, they can't put their supervisor email on here, the .gov or the .us form. It should be their private email that goes on here. And if they don't have an email address, I know some folks still do not have an email address, so they would just check this box if they don't have an email address. So that's very important. I know the state has been monitoring this information from us, so I know that they'll check it. So we'll send it back. If you don't get it to us that way, we'll just send it back to you, and then you can update that information, have the candidate update that information, and get that back to us. Candidates can now request that their residence be classified as private data if the candidate has a reasonable fear regarding the safety of the candidate or the candidate's family. The candidate must provide their residential address to the filing officer, but that would be kept privately. It would not be made public information. And then for any offices where the residency requirement must be satisfied by the close of filing period, and where the candidate has requested that their address be classified as private data, the filing officer must, within 1 day, determine whether the address provided is within the boundaries of the district. So only if they check this box means you have a few other extra steps, and you can always call our office if you need to figure out how to do that. But so it does say you certify the police report has submitted or an OFP in order for protection, but it also states here reasonable fear, and that's kind of been a key because you could have reasonable fear that you think that because it's pretty common for certain offices, especially in the legislative offices, have been hanging their hat on that reasonable fear and not providing their address. So if they check that box, you still have to get their address, but just not on this form, so in a different way. Affidavits of candidacy must be signed in the presence of a notary or an individual authorized to administer oaths. So that person that's authorized to administer oaths would be clerks. So if you're an ex officio notary, I mean, you can just look at your notary stamp and see that, then you would be an individual authorized to administer oaths, not because you're a notary or official notary, but you're authorized to administer oaths, meaning you can tell people to raise their right hand and swear your candidates in. So candidates filing in person must sign the affidavit while the filing officer witnesses. If the affidavit was signed earlier, it must have been witnessed by a notary public or other officer empowered to take and certify acknowledgments. Questions about signatures should be directed to your legal advisor. The affidavit may be prepared and signed at any time between the 60 days before the filing period opens and the last day of the filing period. So if another person does drop off the affidavit of candidacy, ensure that it was signed during the filing period. So that's very important. Campaign finance requirements for cities and townships in most cases, the one that's highlighted, the CFR or certification of filing, that's the one that you must get from each of your candidates, and you need to receive that by November 12th. So whether or not they spent over the threshold or under the threshold of $750, they still are required to certify or submit the certification of filing that they did not raise or spend more than $750 for their campaign that year. So they're going to file that piece of paper with you. For everyone else, if any one of your candidates spends over $750, which is highly unlikely, there are several more reports to fill out. I won't go through each of those because it's highly unlikely that we'll see that in a city or township. If that does happen, you can feel free to call me and I can go over all of the reports with you along with those deadlines. I'm just going to reiterate the campaign finance reports one more thing. If you can think of it in steps. So number one, ensure that with the campaigning materials that you had handed out to your candidates that they have both the CFR forms and the campaign financial report certificate of filing. There are pictures of two different ones. So remember, just if they spend or receive over $750, then they need to fill out this one. This is the one they need if it's over $750. So highly unlikely that you probably will not need that one. It's more likely that they're not going to reach that threshold and they're going to be certifying that they have not spent that money, and all they need to turn in is that report with you. Again, a majority of towns and cities that in Cass County specifically do not spend or receive over $750, so you won't have to worry about this one. Clerk filing responsibility. So all clerks, mail ballot, and polling place clerks must give notice of the election to the county auditor 74 days before the election, 84 days for a special election. So what is 74 days before this general election? Well, it's August 23rd. And filing for your filing ends on August 13th. So by the 23rd, we are deep into ballot proofing, waiting for ballots. So I highly suggest that you get a hold of me and let me know what your offices are for election well before that due date. The candidate filing period, the late filing period, will apply to all clerks in Cass County. So what that means is they filed later than the early filing period. Right now, we are dealing with the early filings for commissioners and soil and water conservation districts, along with senators and legislatures. The late filing period is for all the, at least for Cass County, is for all the townships and cities and school districts in specific to Cass County. So you must publish your notice at least 2 weeks before the beginning of the filing date. And the filing period for cities without a primary is 98 days before and closes 84 days before the election. Hospital district seat candidates can also file with the city or town during this same time period. And remember that clerks must be open from 1 to 5 on the last day of filing. This slide pertains to townships only. Some possible ballot questions for townships. We understand that it's hard sometimes to find clerks and treasurers that reside within their precinct. So about half of our townships have already passed option B. This gives the flexibility to hire outside of the township for your clerk and treasurer. The question of adopting of giving the option for the town board organization must be voted on at the town election. The board may submit the question, or residents may petition for an option to be placed on the ballot. A petition requires signatures of township electors equal to 15% of those voting in the last town election. So if your township is possibly thinking about putting a question on the ballot in order to appoint the clerk rather than electing one, I can certainly help you out with that. So get a hold of me for that. Ballots and proofing. Timely approval of the ballot proof is critical to ensure faster delivery of the ballots. We are always crunched for time during the ballot proofing timeline. The time span between the end of candidate filing period and when ballots must be available is a small window. The sooner that we receive your proofs, the sooner our voters can get their ballots. If one precinct does not okay the proof, we cannot move forward with printing, and it can hold up all voters in Cass County. Again, the preferred communication method for ballot approval is email. Please let me know if this is not possible or if we need to find another avenue. As soon as you receive the ballot proof, which is going to be a PDF of the ballot for your precinct, it will come via email. You must, as soon as possible, review the ballot using the checklist provided. I know you are all busy and just glancing over the ballot proof is not enough in this situation. You will need to take your time to review the accuracy. If a candidate name or race is incorrect and then printed on the ballot, there is no going back. Have 2 people proof the ballot. The simple process of proofing could have costly consequences if not done accurately. I'm going to reiterate, our office has to track approximately 450 officials across 77 different jurisdictions. Missing the correct spelling of a candidate's name can be easily missed on our end when performing our own proofing that has to do with the style, font, wording, etc. Your ballot to-do list. Okay, so the AOCs to the county as soon as possible. Ballot questions to the county as soon as possible. Proof your ballots immediately and complete the approval form and return it to the county. Notices and publications. Notice of all offices to be voted for. At least 15 weeks before the state primary, the Secretary of State notifies each county auditor of the offices to be voted for in that county at the next state general election. Within 10 days after notification, each county auditor must notify each clerk in the county of all offices to be voted for in the county at that election and the time and place. So really what that means in short is we get something from the Secretary of State's office for the primary election that speaks to who's going to be on the ballot, and then we notify all of the precincts, clerks of that notice that we get from the Secretary of State. So really the one that you have to concentrate on is the next one, the notice of filing dates for the general election. You are required to publish this in your newspaper 2 weeks before filing. If you don't have a newspaper that you can publish in, consult your legal advisor and see what that advice is. But other than that, at least post on your website if you do have one. And you are also required to post 10 days before filing in your office. We have the notice of mail ballot procedures. That's something that we do. We ask that you do post it, or at least mail ballot precincts are required to post it. We just ask for the favor of all other polling places to post in addition. The notice of election, again, that's something we complete 2 weeks before election. Some precincts decide that they will do that in addition and give notice, and that's fine. That's just something you can do in addition, but the county does complete that in addition to what you're doing, and you are required to post this. So deadlines vary, again, posting 2 weeks prior to election for consistency. And then the sample of the notice ballot, that's something we do on your behalf also. So there's no statutory requirement to post, but we will send it to you and we encourage to post. And then of course the public accuracy test, something the county does on your behalf too. So really it's only that notice of filing for the general election. Make sure you get that published 2 weeks before the filing dates. This was just a scheduled 15-minute break for in-person training, but we are going to keep moving on. Mail ballot precincts. A township of any size or a city having fewer than 400 registered voters on June 1st of an election year may provide balloting by mail. This was a recent law change in 23. There were metro restrictions for a town. Now that those restrictions were removed, and now it can be a township of any size, metro or not. In Cass County, we have 43 mail ballot precincts. It's a requirement that all clerks complete the required clerks training. If you're a clerk of a mail ballot precinct, you still have certain obligations to administer certain election duties. 28 of these 43 mail ballot precincts have been operating as a mail ballot precinct since 1994. So if you're thinking of making the switch to mail ballot, the authority to make that change rests with the town board or city council. A resolution authorizing mail balloting no later than 90 days prior to an election is required, so by August 7th. Reasons to consider switching: lack of adequate voting facilities, difficulty finding election judges, seasoned election judges are aging, and voter convenience, voter cost. By switching to the mail ballot method, a township or city will save the cost of operating a poll each election and save the upfront county investment in each precinct election equipment, which costs us $20,000 for each precinct that decides to do in-person voting. So in-person voting is not cheap. It's a cost-effective measure. So it saves money across the board. There are 29 polling places in Cass County. So 20 of those are townships and 8 are cities. Towns with less than 500 inhabitants from the last census may adopt a later time to be open and not later than 10 a.m. Place clerks have quite a few more responsibilities. So polling place clerks are responsible for recruiting and hiring their own election judges, as well as assigning the election judge duties and titles. I suggest waiting until after the political party lists are provided in May, which I did send those out. So if you have any questions on those, you can let me know. On May 1st, in a year in which there is an election for a partisan political office, each major political party prepares a list of eligible voters to act as election judges. The list provided by the party must indicate which eligible voters are willing to travel to a precinct outside of their home jurisdiction to act as an election judge, and the jurisdictions to which each eligible voter is willing to travel for that purpose. The political parties shall furnish the list electronically. So since then, we have already sent these lists to each election clerk, polling place clerk. So you all currently already have these lists. If you have questions about the list, please contact me and we can go over that. So municipalities are required to appoint election judges from these lists before appointing additional judges. Your duty is to appoint first from the list and is limited to those judges that reside in your precinct if they are qualified. So remember, you still need party balance. Don't hire all DFL judges or all Republican judges just because they're on the list. It's common that most people on the list have no idea they even signed up to be an election judge. So reach out to the individual and make sure to keep record of the conversation. So email is best. If you reach out and they decline to be an election judge, that's where you're going to want to keep track of that or make some kind of record of that conversation or email correspondence. All election judges need at least 2 hours of basic election judge training every 2 years. Clerks that take this training can count this towards their total hours needed for clerk certification. Your board must designate the appointment of election judges by a resolution at least 25 days before the election. If you have a list of election judges that typically serve as an election judge for your municipality, you can put your names on the list and add the verbiage on the resolution, quote, to allow the clerk substitutions as necessary, or the appointment of qualified replacements is authorized if vacancies occur. So your township, city, or school board should have resolution templates templates appointing election judges. This will have to be done for each election, so the primary, general, or special election. If your precinct has over 500 voters, a minimum of 4 election judges is needed for state elections. If under that, the threshold is a minimum of 3. No more than half the judges may belong to the same major party. Party balance does not apply to standalone or town or school district elections. Election judges can choose to volunteer or be paid. Compensation of election judges is set by the board appointing the judges. It must be at least the state's minimum hourly wage. You will need to make sure to schedule enough alternates. So make sure to confirm if you or anyone else that is typically an election judge questions that need to be asked before hiring, if they are on the ballot or if they're related to somebody on the ballot. Very important. With election judge wages increasing and the number of elections this year, there are a few things to prepare for. With 3 elections, you could possibly need to account for FICA, or for most of you, you will have W-2s for your workers if they are paid over $600. Townships and cities will need to consider this when you give your supervisor or clerk a W-2 for their wages. There is not a way to separate W-2s. You will need to account for it all in one W-2. So it's possible that some of the wages need to be figured differently. For more information regarding workers reporting and withholding, election workers reporting and withholding, please reach out to your financial advisor or visit the IRS. Okay, party balance. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this slide because at least polling place clerks that really have to consider this. We always go back and forth on party balance and trying to really dive into that definition. So what does it mean to have party balance? So the statute reads regarding party balance in the polling place on election day, no more than 1/2 of the election judges serving at a time in the polling place on election day may be affiliated with one major political party. If there is an odd number of election judges serving, no more than 1/2 plus 1 may be affiliated with one major political party. So at least 2 election judges in each precinct must serve with a different major political party designation. So at least you need to have at least 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. That is the minimum for party balance. Except in school district, of course, in special elections that aren't held in conjunction with a statewide election. So we're talking about party balance for partisan elections that have Republicans or Democrats on the ballot. The remaining election judges in a precinct can serve without affiliation to a major political party. No more than half the judges in a precinct may belong to the same major political party. The major party affiliation of election judge or a statement that the judge does not affiliate with the major political party may be shared with other election judges assigned to the precinct at the same election to verify compliance with party balance requirements. This data may not be disclosed or used by election judges for any other purpose. So, examples. Example 1, 6 election judges are serving in polling place A. 3 of the election judges are Republican, 2 are DFL, and 1 is unaffiliated. So this is party balance because you have an even number and not more than half are associated with the same party. 2, or polling place B. 6 election judges are serving in polling place B. 4 are DFL, 1 is Republican, 1 has signed a statement that they are unaffiliated with a major political party. This polling place is not party balanced. In polling place C, 7 election judges are serving in polling place C. 4 are DFL, 2 are Republican, 1 has signed a statement that they are unaffiliated with a major political party. This polling place is party balance. According to subsection 5, no more than half of the election judges in a precinct may be members of the same major political party unless the election board consists of an odd number of election judges, in which case the number of election judges who are members of the same major party may be one more than half the number of election judges in that precinct. So I know it's a mouthful and a lot to wrap your head around, but we'll get there. Polling place D. 7 election judges are serving in polling place D. 5 are Republican. 2 are DFL. This polling place is not party balanced. What a municipality or county should do if they do not have major political party affiliated election judges to ensure party balance in the polling place on election day. So keep in mind, each polling place requires at a minimum 2 election judges affiliated with 2 different major political parties. Do not suggest to election judges to switch their major political party affiliation. Step 3, contact local major political party chairs and inquire as to new names that they might share with you. Those who have expressed interest later in that year, you can always contact us too, because we will have lists. You can contact other counties and municipalities about extra party affiliated election judges that might be willing to work outside of their home precincts. Consider assigning additional election judges who have signed a statement that they are unaffiliated with a major political party, and I'm not talking about independent. There is a difference. So if they say they're independent, that's a minor party. Unaffiliated means they are not affiliated with a major party. Each major party does furnish that electronic list of judges. So we talked about that in a previous slide. By May 1st, you've already received those lists. So if you have any questions on the party balance, I can work this out with you and work through it with you. So get a hold of me. Absentee voting is also known as early voting. So we're going to talk about the similarities of absentee voting. So you have early voting, vote from home, which the Secretary of State's office does use that term a lot. Direct voting, or what we call direct balloting, is a form that we utilize here at the county. That's where we get a ballot tabulator and you can vote here at the county. UOCAVA. So that's, if you think of military voting, that is something that our county does. You don't have to do any of that. That's something that we take care of. And again, they're all processes for absentee voting. They're so close. I mean, right down to the envelopes, other than it saying mail and absentee, they're almost the same process. It does differ slightly, but there's a similarity for each one of these, but they're really all considered early voting. As I said in the previous slide, mail ballot and absentee ballot, it's the same concept, but a different process. So both mail ballot voters and absentee ballot voters are kept track of through our statewide voter registration system, or SVRS. Each voter is represented through a unique voter ID code. Only one ballot is accepted for that ID code. Although there may be instances, it's rare, where a voter receives 2 ballots. Only one is counted. If someone states that they received 2 ballots, please have them contact our office as soon as possible. A majority of the time, what we found that is when they called, they weren't actual ballots, but rather voter outreach material. So from another entity, so completely unaffiliated, not a ballot. They just are confused at what it looked like and never really actually opened the envelope. So again, I would take those complaints or accusations with a grain of salt, but have them contact us, because that is a matter of concern, and we do want to work that out and find out if they did get 2 ballots in the mail. Absentee voting is most common when the precinct that you reside in has opted for a polling place designation. However, if a voter that resides in a mail ballot precinct that needs their ballot mailed to a different address, they're going to be processed as an absentee voter. Absentee voting, also known as early voting or vote from home, and direct balloting is a service that, again, we offer and we utilize 18 days prior to Election Day. Mass mailings sent by various entities like the Center for Voter Information is a nonprofit voter registration group that mails pre-filled absentee ballot applications. We still accept those absentee ballot applications from other entities. So, however, we recommend to voters when requesting one to go through the Minnesota Secretary of State, their online portal, or they can also request a paper copy, or you can absolutely request a paper copy from us or your town clerk. But in most cases, we're just going to ask you to go onto the online portal if you can, or request a paper copy, and we will either mail or email that for you. The DS200 is a ballot tabulator that the voter can feed their ballot into. These ballot tabulators are used at polling place locations as well as the courthouse for direct balloting. The DS450 is a central count ballot tabulator. This is what we use at the county to count the mail and absentee ballots. Poll pads have replaced the paper roster, and they're used to check in voters or to register voters. And the Omni ballot is the assistive voting device. Voters needing assistance can use this to mark their ballot. All right, remember, public meetings are prohibited on Election Day between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. This includes school district counties, municipalities, special taxing districts. No special taxing district, governing body, or school board, county board of commissioners, city council, or town board of supervisors shall conduct a meeting between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. on the day that an election is held within the boundaries of any district conducting an election. Public elementary and secondary schools, except for regularly scheduled classes, a public elementary or secondary school may not schedule a school-sponsored event between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. on the day that a regularly scheduled election is held in any political subdivision in which the school is located. So let's think about this. So probably not going to be an issue in August as long as you don't have any sports or extracurricular activities scheduled at your school in August, and now we're looking in November. So we're right into sports season when school's in session. So make sure that you earmark that date to leave open and not schedule any school sports. Again, that time frame is not between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. So you need to make sure that there's nothing that would be keeping a voter at your school between those times. So it's best to just avoid scheduling anything that day. Townships and cities and school districts with polling places, but we don't have any polling places here for school districts. So townships or cities with polling places may have to avoid meetings on election day. Remember that your precinct must canvass your election results. If you didn't have candidates on the ballot, you will not canvass for the primary. The earliest date that you can canvass is Friday, November 8th, so 3 to 8 days after the general election. This used to be 3 to 10 days, but recent law revisions changed that timeline to the 3rd and 8th days. The dates available to canvass the election results are November 8th through November 13th, no earlier and no later. The county is canvassing returns on Tuesday, November 12th at 1 p.m. I suggest setting your canvass that day or after that day so that we have time to go through the abstracts and canvass results for each of your precincts and post them on our website. What's the purpose of the canvass? So the purpose is to declare the results for the jurisdiction's elections as being true and correct official results. The clerk would be the recount official for any local race or questions, and the county auditor is the post-election review official. A clerk or auditor who issues a certificate of election to a candidate, it must make sure to have that campaign finance report, because if it's found that you didn't get that dang piece of paper for that campaign finance report, you could be found guilty of misdemeanor. I know it seems a little excessive, but that's why we push the importance of that campaign finance report. So make sure that you're getting those from your candidates as soon as possible. Okay, tie votes and write-ins. So what happens if there's a tie vote? Well, 1998, the Today Show carried a live broadcast of a coin flip that shows the new mayor of the Iron Range town of Gilbert. Then the Secretary of State, Joan Grow, flipped a 1902 silver dollar, and candidate Carl Oberstar Jr. won the coin toss and the election. In 2000, the two candidates for the mayor of the southwestern Minnesota town of Delhi broke into their 44 to 44 electoral tie by cutting a deck of cards. So, what happens if there's a tie vote? You are determining that winner by lot. So whether it's flipping a coin, picking a card, drawing straws, etc. What happens with write-in votes? So the law treats write-in winners the same as any other winners. They are contacted with the results and informed that they won the election. A certificate of election is issued, informing them that they must take the oath of office within 10 days of receiving the certificate of election. If the person does not take the oath of office, the law treats the office as vacant, and the board can appoint a person to that position. The candidate with the second highest number of votes does not automatically receive the certificate of election if the winner declines the office or resigns. Every person elected or appointed to any public office shall take and subscribe an oath or affirmation to support the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of Minnesota. So they do actually have to say that out loud, or you are going to read it to them and they're going to agree to it. So this requirement applies to every official, commissioner, or member of a public board or body before transacting any of the business or exercising any privilege of such office. Unless otherwise specified in law, town officials take and subscribe their oath of office with their town clerk or recorder. Let's review some frequently asked questions. When no one files for office, there's going to be many elections where nobody files an affidavit of candidacy. When this happens, the ballots are to be developed with a write-in spot. If the office that is up for election is a vote for two or more candidates, then the number of write-in spots to match that number of candidates to be voted will be on the ballot. It is suggested that the county elections office review with the local election clerks the use of write-in tally sheets. So every office does this a little bit different, so you'll be instructed on how to use those write-in tally sheets. Again, that's just going to be for the general election since write-ins are not allowed during the primary. We also have software now that can distinguish write-ins for us, which is extremely helpful. However, if you have a write-in race for your municipalities that is pretty much, if there's nobody on the ballot, we suggest keeping track of your write-ins in addition to what our software collects. That's specific towards the polling place precincts that can actually see those write-ins on the ballots when they're going through them. Resolving a tie. So what if it's a tie vote? So when the canvassing board meets and there is a tie vote for an election to the office, the canvassing board must determine at that meeting the winner by lot, and that's a statute. So when you do that determination by lot, that really can be done any different ways, whether it's drawing from a hat or pulling straws or picking a card. It just means by lot, so it's by chance. So what happens if the winning candidate refuses office? Every so often, a candidate wins an election and they do not wish to serve in that election. Or if the candidate is a write-in candidate and they decide that they don't want to serve in that office, the candidate who is declared the winner by the canvassing board, who technically does not wish to quote unquote take the office, that means a vacancy exists. So the statutes do not state that the candidate who received the next number of votes, who so they're not automatically declared the winner. So again, it doesn't mean like there's a second runner up and it goes to them. So your board has, your board or council can really appoint whoever they wish, provided they meet the criteria for running for office in the first place. So they have to be from your precinct, must be 21, and et cetera, et cetera. So they must meet all of those. How do you determine if there needs to be a recount? Well, there's publicly funded recounts and discretionary recounts. So the publicly funded recount means that it's absorbed by the municipality or the county. In a sense, it would be really us doing the recount for you. And that's if the difference is less than 10 votes, or if more than 400 votes were cast, then 1/4%. And the discretionary recount is the candidate's expense. So if it's over that threshold and they want to recount, they can request that. And again, there will be a fee for the recount. It is dependent on the amount of ballots and the time that it takes for us to do that, and that they would be charged. But yes, so those are some frequently asked questions. Cass County has two different types of election emergency plan. We have what I call our standard election emergency plan, so what to do in case of a fire, weather emergency, power outage, or some other similar emergency if that emergency occurs during voting hours. That also included evacuation plans for the polling place and includes catastrophic emergency plans for tornadoes, bomb threats, or any kind of physical imminent danger. That plan's distributed to all polling place precincts. It's also in the election supply tote, and it is designated as public information. Our newest adopted plan is our cyber incident detection and notification plan. This election emergency plan is just distributed to our election staff, our Cass County IT department, and other Cass County staff and stakeholders, but it's treated as security data, and it is protected from all public data requests. So just so you know, we do have some cyber security that we take pretty seriously, and how we're making sure that all of our election information is kept secure, at least that has to do with cyber. All election judges are to keep a watchful eye on all voting equipment, removable memory devices, ballots, and supplies throughout the election. Individuals observed in inspecting, assessing, or attempting to access or connect a device to the voting equipment needs to be addressed by the head judge and additional election judges if needed, with the incident communicated to us. So you need to let our office know immediately if you do witness any potential security threats. Further, you need to inspect the seals and any port plugs on the voting equipment just throughout the day. Just you can do it during your hourly ballot balancing. That's pretty good practice to do that. So voter reports to the election judges of observation of any of those that we just discussed, especially if there's any email, text, or social media, phone, or other communications attempting to disrupt or influence the election process. So that needs to be reported to us also. You can request a sergeant at arms or peace officer that may be requested to arrest or remove from the polling place any individual who, despite a warning to desist, so remember you have to give a warning first, engages in disorderly conduct, to include attempting to tamper with voting equipment. Otherwise, the sergeant, the peace officer, cannot remain at the polling place or even within 50 feet of the entrance once peace has been restored. All right, important election dates to remember. You can see this little calendar can be helpful. So June, July, August, September, October, November. So I'm just really including that election season that's happening this year. This includes everything from the election judge training that's going to be happening the 17th through the 21st. Those taking the online, of course, opens June 14th. And then we have our absentee deliveries. So only absentee locations have to worry about that and absentee voting. And then we have other helpful information. So July 8th, that's when we have it scheduled for our mail ballots to be sent. So just so you know that if you get questions in a mail ballot precinct, you know that when those are sent. And then we have August, a few different important dates there. Everything from polling place deliveries, that's going to be specific to our polling places. But then you have that the candidate filing that closes on our primary election date. So that's going to be a busy day. And then September 17th through the 19th, we're picking up that voting equipment, or I'm sorry, rather, we're doing absentee ballot deliveries. And that's when our general election ballots are sent in September, October. Then we have the polling place deliveries in November. Of course, we've got the big election, the presidential election. So that is a little miniature version of some important dates. You can find a complete calendar posted at www.sos.state.mn.us. Okay, this is the last part. So this is just some helpful information on how to get your certificate. So you're going to navigate to our website, the Cass County website, the same place you access this clerk training. And underneath that clerk training tab, you're going to see clerk certification of completion statement form. Again, that's going to redirect you to a SharePoint form. It's automatically going to send you a certificate to the email that you list within that form that you fill out. If you have any questions, certainly give us a call with that, but there's not a quiz, so yay for that. It's just a certification of completion statement form. I am going to skip this slide. This spot would be reserved for questions and comments during the in-person training. All right, that's it. That concludes our training. I want to stress that the work of a clerk is not really a high-profile job, and if you're doing your job right, it's going to go unnoticed. I know how much of an important role that you play for our municipal government. You are the glue that holds our various functions of your municipality together, as well as being an unified point of contact for your constituents. Your residents trust you to provide them with peace of mind of how elections are conducted. The more educated we can be in how elections are conducted and how that information is received. You are the trusted messengers to your communities and can help provide a way to educate your peers. So thank you again.